Hello, Joyce. Great to see you. Fred, Mr. Cowan, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Hello, Joyce Redford.
I'm not off mute yet.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you
Oh,
are.
yeah?
Yes.
Oh, yay! How is everybody?
You're well, thank you. Hope
We're
you
well,
are.
yeah. It's
Yes.
been a
Missing
fun few
human
years.
contact with the boards of health.
It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. For sure.
Hello, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Joe.
Why can't I find where I am?
Let's see. Here it goes. Okay. And forgive me, Fred, you received the,
I have everything, thank you.
okay.
I'm sorry,
I
I should have.
apologize that I had forgotten to send that to you earlier.
Actually, I think I have everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to revise the agenda and then I added the materials
19.
exactly. That's exactly
And you
it.
did it on a unicycle, I'm told.
Well, I always liken it to plate spinning, you know, from the Ed Sullivan Show. You got the guy running around with his dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I was brought up in children's story with a push me, pull you.
Evening, Claudia, how are you? Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, Claudia.
Very well.
Hello.
Hi, Claudia.
Hi.
Good evening, Bobby. Hi, Kelly.
And
Kelly.
Kelly Highland.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Quinn is here in regards to the Greenhead box discussion. That's why he's on as a panelist.
Good.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
And Tom, is it Barry?
Yes.
Okay, Barry was sent a link. It should have been resent. So I'm expecting him to be on. I haven't received any notification otherwise.
Okay. I'm going to actually text him real quick just to make sure.
Mhm.
There he is.
There he is.
Oh, he is. Okay, excellent.
Yep. Barry, welcome to the discussion.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. How are you doing, sir?
Good, good.
Good. We've
Max, I
updated-
also want to let you know that the Shellfish Constable Peter Seminara is going to be coming in on the public side of the
Yep.
Zoom.
Yep.
He's doing both this meeting and a budget and finance meeting at the same time. However,
He's good
he
at
does that.
multitasking.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, he's already in the audience for this meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Actually, we have more panelists than we actually do attendees.
We're getting very close to teleporting ourselves.
Hi, Joyce. Hi.
Claudia, you look fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I think your hair is longer or something. Everyone looks so healthy. I'm so happy to see everybody.
It's just the Zoom, I think.
I was going to say it's a special filter.
Yeah, exactly. Although I
Gloria
did have 2
Swanson,
weeks
you
of
only had
vacation.
blue light at a 40-degree angle, yes.
2 weeks of vacation really helps, though, I have
Oh,
to say.
nice, nice,
I mean-
nice.
Yeah, so.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello,
Hi,
Rachel.
everyone. How are
Hello.
you?
Good, how are you?
Great to see everybody. I'm well. Thank you.
Good.
All right, almost there at the bewitching hour.
We're just missing Eric, is that correct?
Oh,
Yep.
goodness. We are missing Eric.
And I'm Don.
John.
Judd?
Don.
John
Don.
Judd.
Oh,
Oh,
Don.
Don
Yes.
Ganem, forgive me.
Don.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's just so many people on the screen, I automatically assumed everybody was here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don
Don,
and
I
Eric.
know, he sent a text to me saying that he's traveling actually, and will be joining by phone as soon as possible.
Here's Eric.
Here's Eric.
Nice.
Hi, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
There you go.
Hi, Eric.
Well, shall we get started then?
We are at 5:30.
Okay, it is indeed 5:30 on April 7th, 2022. This is the Gloucester Board of Health scheduled meeting, monthly meeting, and it is being conducted remotely and being recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law and pursuant to Chapter 20 of Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen in real time and participate when necessary. All votes taken during this meeting and future meetings will be by roll call. And if you are calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you are watching on a computer or other device, there is a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. The listing of matters is those reasonably anticipated by the chair to be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So the first item on the agenda is an introduction of everyone, and that's important that we all say our names so that it helps the transcription. The transcriber can recognize who's speaking more easily. So myself, Joe Rosa, Chair. Max,
Max Schenk, Health Director.
Joyce,
Joyce Redford, North Shore Cape Ann Tobacco Control Policy Program.
Fred,
Fred Cowan. I'm serving as a consultant for the Board of Health Septic Review Subcommittee.
Tom Quinn,
Tom Quinn, public participant.
Claudia,
Claudia Schweitzer, Vice Chair, Board of Health.
Kelly,
Kelly Highland, Board of Health member.
Barry,
Harry Noon, District Director of Northeast Mass Mosquito Control.
Rachel,
Hi, Rachel Belisle-Toller, Assistant Director of the Health Department.
Eric,
Eric Kaplan, Member Board of Health.
and Dan.
Dan Oppenheimer, an engineer with Mill River Consulting in Gloucester.
Very good, thank you.
And Bobby Orlando.
Oh, yes,
our
sorry,
recording
Bobby
secretary.
Orlando. Yes, Bobby. Even though you
That's
may not
okay. You
speak,
can skip me if you want, but Bobby Orlando, Recording Secretary.
you get your moment of fame here. And Don, you're here. Don, can you hear us?
He's
Connecting.
connected.
It says he's connecting his audio at the moment. There he
Yeah.
goes.
There he goes.
Dr. Ganem, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Don Ganem,
Very
board member.
good to have you, Don. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
So the next item on the agenda is public oral communication. That's an opportunity for the public to speak for up to 3 minutes on an item which is not on the agenda. Is there anyone, Max?
I'm not seeing any hands raised, so if you are attending online, use the raise hand function at the bottom of the screen, or *9 if you're using your cell phone. Seeing no one.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of March 3rd of this year.
So moved.
Eric's moved to accept the minutes as written. Is there a second?
I'll second, Kelly.
Kelly has seconded. Any discussion on the minutes, changes, amendments, alterations? No? All in favor of accepting the
Aye.
minutes?
Aye.
It does have to be a roll call vote, sorry.
Oh,
folks.
sorry, yes, right. The chair votes yes. Claudia?
I abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay, Kelly
Yes.
and Eric.
Yes.
The minutes are accepted for March 3rd. Next item is committee reports, or are the committee reports, I guess. And the major one is the septic review subcommittee, which happened just yesterday. And that was an unusually complicated meeting. And the first that Eric attended, and he's probably got a rather strange impression of what it's like to be on that committee. But we were quite productive, I think, in that we approved, and in fact, I'll make a motion that we approved and we make a recommendation for the board to approve the septic review subcommittee approval to grant variances to Title V of the State Environmental Code and the Gloucester Board of Health on-site wastewater regulations for the following properties. And the properties are 63 Shore Road, 41B Wingaersheek Road, 77 Wingaersheek Road, 616 Rouse Road, and 52 Shore Road. We will, any special conditions will be annotated in the approval letters provided the applicants. And I so move.
And I second.
Eric, yes, you can certainly second, yes.
I
Any
second.
discussion? I must say, these were, we had the benefit of Fred's participation, Fred Cowan's participation in this. And thank him for that. It was very useful for several fairly complicated and extensive variances that were requested. Any other discussion?
No.
The chair votes to approve the recommendation of approval for these properties. Claudia,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
very good. Thank you all.
One missing.
Don, yes.
Oh, Don, sorry,
yes.
Don, you're
Sorry.
just a blank box there, and
Right.
sorry, Don.
Good.
So the recommendation for approval is in fact approved for the properties noted. Max, have we done the proper thing there? This is the first time we're doing this.
We should be good to go.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is new business, and the first listed is Joyce. Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you very much. Max, I'll ask, I'm assuming that the language that was sent has been forwarded to the board members
Yes.
regarding the suspension of a permit under the situation of a first violation of the state law when there is a sale to a minor. So to explain this to the board, this has been in the regulation since the beginning, but there was two conflicting elements in the regulation. One used the word may, one used the word shall, and the upper echelon at the state have determined that in the condition of a first sale to a minor, that a suspension is required under state law. However, that language says and leaves to the discretion of the board anywhere between 1 and 30 days. So within the collaborative, almost all of our members have previous or prior to the state law have done in the situation of a second violation of a sale to a minor, a 7-day suspension. Well, in your local regulation, it would have been a second violation, a $200 fine, and a 7-day suspension. And under local law prior to state law, it would have been a $300 fine and a 30-day suspension. So there is no preemptive language, meaning that the local law, if it goes above state law, holds. So you can go beyond state law, but you can't go below it. So that said, if we had a first violation at state law says first violation $1,000 and shall have a 1-day to 30-day suspension. We are recommending, because your local law already has a 7-day and 30-day under second and third violation, that you, the board, decides a timeline. I'm recommending that be a 2 or 3-day suspension. The reason for this is it would be below the second violation, so less than the second violation at local law. And a simple 1-day suspension is, in my opinion, somewhat of a burden on the retailers, because they have to remove all of their tobacco products. So if you issue a 1-day suspension, that 1 day, the day before, they have to pull all of their tobacco and nicotine products out for that 1 day, bring it all back in the next day. The second board we've gone before, but the City of Lynn, I was not able to attend because I was doing a Public Health Month event, and the board decided to table it. The recommendation from me is a 2 or 3-day suspension. And I'm also, wherever the first municipality is that decides on which that is, or whether they want to go beyond, I have now got scheduled meetings with Essex, Danvers, Salem, Saugus. I'm really going to make the recommendation based on the first municipality that makes a decision, because in our collaborative, I would really like it to be consistent. I think it helps us with enforcement, but it also helps, although that many of our retailers go outside of our collaborative, many of our retailers share establishments within our collaborative, but outside of your municipality. So we just make it consistent. We've done that with the 7-day suspension and 30-day suspension. So any of our retailers that are within our collaborative have, on a second violation, a shall have a 7-day and shall have a 30-day. So ideally, it would be great to have the same thing go into effect for a first violation. Now,
So
the one thing, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Joyce.
Nope.
So if I understood, you're proposing or that we consider a 2-day suspension for a first violation plus $100 fine? Is that the?
No, it would be $1,000 fine, because it's state law that we're enacting or we're enforcing here. So either a 2-day or a 3-day.
Second and third violations don't have the $1,000 fine?
No, they go higher. It's $2,000 for a second violation and $5,000 for a third violation within the 36 months. That's now state law.
Okay.
And the other thing is, so there are many components of both your local regulation and state law. So here's an example. We have cigar packaging and pricing, meaning the $2.50 for a single cigar and $5 or more for 2 or more cigars or cigarillos. And that would fall under the $100, $200, and $300 21D finding. So that'd be 100, 200, 300. State law jumps up, and state law still covers, like, if they had a flavor that we found in violation of state law, because flavor is now state law, and it goes beyond what we had at local law. Local law was everything except mint, menthol, and wintergreen, but now that's part of the state law. So let's say I went into, X Gloucester Convenient, wherever they are, and I found menthol that they're not supposed to have. It's in violation of state law, and if it was their first violation, it would be $1,000. But if I went into X Gloucester convenience store and it was a sale to a minor, it would be a $1,000 fine and a suspension of whatever we determine tonight. You don't need a public hearing because this is state law and we're enforcing state law. But you do have the authority to pick the time frame. And that's my recommendation because our second violation already is at the threshold of 7 and the 30-day, the third violation is already at a 30-day.
So I have a question. What does suspension mean? Is the store still able to stay open? They just have to remove those products.
You have a suspension of
correct?
your tobacco and nicotine permit, which means
Okay.
you can't sell any of those products. But in addition to not selling them, they have to be removed from the premises. That's why I think kind of a one-day suspension is almost a burden because it's a lot of work to remove all that stuff, depending on, if you're a little gas station and maybe a couple cartons of cigarettes, but if you're a bigger convenience store or a bigger store, it may be a significant amount of inventory.
So the convenience store could stay open though?
Yes, absolutely.
Selling the other things they sell, just not tobacco products.
Correct.
I have two questions. One is, so for the first violation previously, before the state law, what was the repercussions?
For the first, these are all within 36 months. So if you had a first violation within 36 months, it was a $100 fine.
Okay.
If you had a second violation within 36 months, it was a $200 fine and a 7-day suspension of your tobacco permit. If you had a third violation within 36 months, it would be a $300 fine and a 30-day suspension of your tobacco permit.
When you say the times, you're referring to the closeness of a violation?
Yes, we call it a tolling period, but your tolling period in Gloucester and all but one of our municipalities. And now it is reflected in state law, so it can't be less than these. So the 36 months is the tolling period. If we look back, have you had a violation in 36 months? And moving forward, if it was your first violation, in order for you to have like a clean slate, you have to have a clean slate for 36 months.
Yeah.
So it's going from 100 to 1,000.
It already has. That happened in June of 2020. So now we're in 2022, but we've never moved on this first violation.
Right.
And it has been in state law, but we haven't. And I'm also recommending that regardless of what the board decides, like what the time frame is, we're also going to give the retailers, depending on if I can manage to meet all 16 with all 16 municipalities, I want to make sure that we send out written decision that our boards of health have decided or determined that the first violation of a sale to a minor is now a $1,000 fine. If it's a sale to a minor, a $1,000 fine and X number of day suspension. And we will start enforcing this when, like whether it's July 1st or whether before, if I haven't met with everybody until August and the notification hasn't gone out, I'm going to say it'll be 30 days after we've notified all of our retailers.
Sounds fair.
So, I mean, this going from 100 to 1,000 sounds like a big change.
It was a big change.
The stores are aware of this. It's been highly publicized and.
Absolutely. And in fact, prior to, so in April of 2020 and May of 2020, we sent out my program along with the state, sent out notification to all permitted retailers that the change was happening. And for example, in Gloucester, so the flavor restriction was already in place. The fines were different, but now it included mint, menthol, and wintergreen, which a local regulation didn't. So not only did we send them a written letter written in Spanish and English, we sent a visual, like literally, these are the changes that would happen. We sent, this is what vape would look like. This is what a cigar would look like. You could no longer have a cognac cigar. You could no longer have Newports or Salem in menthol. You could no longer have wintergreen and chew. And I didn't just send it in written text, it was in visual, visual form, because I just felt like that. Plus, since that time, we have done at least one, maybe two inspections at every establishment where we've reiterated this.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
From my perspective, since, obviously at the state level and policy level, they view this huge jump from $100 to $1,000 and the suspension as a way to really help reduce, primary prevention for our youth and access. And so for me, from my recommend or whatever I have to say, yeah, is that, I'm leaning more towards that 3-day suspension. That's my perspective. We already have the data. We already have the policy at the state level to support that this is where our experts believe will help curb and reduce the use of tobacco products among our youth. So that's where I'm coming from.
Would you like to make that a motion, Kelly?
Sure. So how do I do that?
You could just say, and I so move to make the first
Okay.
violation suspension 3 days. And
Okay.
I would second that. Now we can open it for discussion and everyone
Okay, so-
can chime in as to what they think.
All right. So, and I so move to have the first violation be a 3-day suspension.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Thank you. So discussion.
Well, I just think it would certainly be a very strong message. And that's what we're trying to put across.
Yeah.
So, and I think, going from 100 to 1,000 is a huge.
That's a done deal.
strong
So
message. Yeah, no, I'm just saying though, that part of it is that
Yeah.
already gives a very strong message. And then adding the suspension onto it makes it even stronger.
Sure.
That,
I agree with the 3-day suspension and I think that's where we should be.
2 days as opposed to 3. The motion on the floor is for 3 days, correct,
For
Kelly?
3. Yep, for 3 days.
You agree? Okay.
Yep.
Don, did you have your hand up or are you just driving?
It's good. No, I'm not driving, but
Good.
wife's driving. I'm in the passenger seat, which is an unusual position for me. But I support the 3-day penalty.
Good. All right. So unless there's further discussion, put it to a vote. I would vote yes to support the motion. Claudia,
yes, to support the motion for 3 days.
Kelly,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Don.
Yes.
Motion carries. So is that what you were here for, Joyce?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
And this is more of a piece of information, but also I will just add, because I don't know if we've met even remotely, we, from April until July of 2021, the program did a full compliance check throughout the collaborative. And although Gloucesters were not horrible, thankfully, we did have 47% failure rate. This was our first compliance check post-COVID with youth. We had a 47% failure rate in the city of Lynn and a 49% failure rate in the city of Salem, and somewhere less than that, but way more than we had in prior months. And this was a year after state law. So we had a lot of appeals. And I am happy to report they were all upheld, including one that went to district court. So, we really have support behind, which should be because it's state legislative regulations. And this is just one piece that was kind of overlooked or missed or whatever. So I'm happy to say, and you guys have done a great job and always been ahead of this. My last piece of information, and Max, again, this was sent out regarding the Delta 8. To the boards?
It was, would you like me to?
No, you don't have to share it. This is a piece of information. So to the boards, under the tobacco, modernization of tobacco control, we have jurisdiction over flavored vape, anything that isn't FDA approved. So if there was a cough syrup that all of a sudden became, for sale in or a sleep aid that became non-FDA approved, all of a sudden being offered for sale at some retail level, whether it's a convenience store or whoever. It's against state law to sell any flavored vape product that is not FDA approved, regardless of nicotine content. And that was a result of that EVALI prior to COVID. So we would have jurisdiction to fine and remove or have removed those products from the retail environment. On another note, so what's hit the market, and you guys know it's a whack-a-mole. Remember, like 5 years ago, we never thought vape was gonna grab a hold of our youth. And in fact, it didn't, became an epidemic and kind of took away all the gains we've made with anti-nicotine and anti-smoking work we've done over the last 25 years. So they're always looking for the next thing. And the next thing we have found is this Delta 8, Delta 9, and Delta 10. Delta 8 falls under the threshold of the cannabis control effect on a person. However, it does get you high, and it was being offered for sale in many of our retailers, not specifically in Gloucester, but across the state and in our collaborative area. And I have found it myself, and other of my colleagues have found it in smokable, vapable, and the scariest thing is edibles, which I sent you guys pictures of so that you'd know what you're looking at when you go in a store, what parents are, it's hidden in plain sight. It says Skittles, it says Nerds. It looks like all kid-friendly items. And we don't have jurisdiction over that, but it is a controlled substance. So the police department has jurisdiction. However, I'm not sure this is what they want to chase, just like I wasn't sure it's what they wanted to chase when we found these things in vape products, right? I'm a person, or our programs are in these retail environments. We have the authority to fine and have them remove the vapable Delta 8, 9, or 10. And I have actually told retailers, and have found it in several of our retailers out of the nearly 400 that we have in our collaborative, removed and sealed and said, do not open, and am reporting this not only to police departments, but to the Department of Revenue, because some of these things are supposed to be taxable or controlled and not in the environment. It's kind of, a lot of these retailers are getting information from their vendors that this is not illegal in Massachusetts, but as I provided, there is on mass.gov a specific language that says this product is, because it's synthetically derived from hemp, it's not a naturally occurring level in natural hemp. And hemp was, if you do or do not know, was removed from the Farm Bill, but it was not removed from the Farm Bill as something that was either edible, vapable, or synthetically created. So if you were going to use it in industries to make fabric or whatever, it was removed. It's not a controlled substance. But as soon as it was altered and now had an ability to get somebody high, it was prohibited from being sold or produced in Massachusetts. And of course, into the market it all came. And in a smokable, it's flavored. And in one of the photographs I even provided, which was in our collaborative, it actually said right on the back of the product, let me just find it, because it was the smokable one that we'd be looking at. It actually says right on the package, it's a controlled substance. And the retailer was very angry, very irate that, we're over controlling them. So I blew up the photograph. This is only one image on the image you guys have, but in this language, it actually says it has Delta 8 and Delta 10, and that the product is a controlled substance. So this may come before you in the future, because during an inspection or a compliance check, we find a flavored vapable product, but it also may just become come before you because we have a retailer who feels like this is not tobacco's job. And the other two items, the edibles and the smokables, are not, but that is under the police jurisdiction. And this information has been sent to and forwarded to all our SROs. And I'm hoping that the police departments are willing to cooperate with us if we find this or when we find this in any of our retail environment. I just wanted the board to be aware because, like I said, it's hidden in plain sight. I'm going to guess that most of us don't on a regular basis. In fact, I'm the first one. If it wasn't part of my job, I'd have no reason to be in a convenience store. I read my news online. I don't buy newspapers. I don't smoke. I don't use, I don't gamble. And usually if I'm getting gas at a place, I do it with a debit card. So I wouldn't even be in this environment if it wasn't my job. And I feel like that's the case for many adults and a lot of parents, and they're not even aware these products are out there.
So Joyce, can I ask, these aren't things that are sold in a dispensary though, right?
No.
Okay, so this is something totally
well, and
separate.
the interesting thing about that, Claudia, is that the CCC controls dispensaries, and dispensaries can only sell cannabis products, which are governed from seed to sale. Literally, they have DNA, and they don't sell hemp products. They sell THC products, but retailers can sell hemp, and these things are altered, so they think they're flying under the radar. And it's just one more thing that they're looking to, you know, we're making money. These things are behind the counter. Some of them have prices on them. They're like $20, you know, but the flavors and the names and the colors, all kid friendly. It's so alarming.
Yeah.
So if no one else has questions, that was just my piece of information about this Delta 8, 9, and 10 product that feels like it's emerging very quickly.
So the Delta 8, 9, and 10 are all from hemp, you're saying?
All synthetically derived from hemp.
Okay.
They're not naturally occurring because now in hemp, THC in any significant amount is not naturally occurring.
And just to clarify, your role is you can find them and remove the product, correct?
I can only, we, under the board, as an agent of the board, we only have jurisdiction over flavored vape.
Okay.
But certainly because I'm the eyes out there, or we're the eyes out there, as well as any of your inspectors and police departments can certainly go in. In fact, in one of our retailers in Danvers, he had some Delta 8 in his back room, and the state police went there for another issue. And when they went through the establishment, they actually confiscated the Delta 8 because they told them it was a controlled substance. So, you know, we're one level of at least seeing it or finding it or identifying it. But we, at least the Board of Health has the jurisdiction over anything that's flavored and vapable, regardless of its Delta, nicotine, cough medicine, sleeping aid, if it's not FDA approved.
Thank you.
So if no one else has any questions?
No.
Thank you guys all very much. I will pass on, I applaud you for the 3-day suspension. I will take that with me to our other collaborative members and hope that we all land in the same place.
Good.
Actually, Joyce, before you leave, in terms of process on that, the board, you know, voted for the 3 days, but in terms of enacting it, what kind of time frame were you talking about again?
I'm thinking 30 days after we have kind of a majority. So I don't know how we want to look at that. If you have to pick an enactment day, maybe we should consider, I mean, I have like 8 meetings in the next 2 months. So we could go for June 30th or July 1st, because that's the end of the fiscal year, may make sense. And I think that because you voted, I think we can get other collaborative members to be on the same page, and that gives enough lead time for us to get to. And even if, let's say there's a few municipalities that haven't acted by then, I think it's reasonable to say that a majority of the larger cities and larger towns will have voted by then, and we can get something out. So I'm confident about that.
Okay.
If
And when
you
the
all
time,
are.
yeah, when the time gets closer, you and I can work together on messaging.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good night,
Joyce.
everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
seeing you.
It's great to
Can't wait
see
to
you.
see you all in person.
Thank you, Joyce.
Exactly.
Someday.
Yeah.
Okay, next item under new business is a discussion regarding the placement or placement, as the agenda says, of greenhead boxes. Who is
So-
leading that off?
Mr. Quinn, you're up.
Okay,
All right, so thank you. I want to thank Max and the rest of the board members for allowing me to speak. This is going to be kind of a two-part presentation. With me is Barry Noon from the Northeast Mosquito Control. Barry and I have never met, so we get to meet tonight here on Zoom, but we have spoken. So I'm going to kind of read I don't know if all of the members have the proposal that I sent, but I'm going to kind of read from that, my little outline, and then I'm going to refer to Barry for the more specifics on the program itself. So what I'm looking for is hoping to obtain the board's support for Gloucester to participate in the control of greenhead flies. Every summer, the salt marshes along the Annisquam River is inundated with these biting insects. Economically, greenhead flies can be very harmful as well as a nuisance, as anybody on the river or waterfront here in Gloucester knows. In Essex County, they can affect real estate values, beach use, golfing, outdoor recreation, and so on. They are not considered a health problem to people, as they have not been found to transmit disease. However, some people have strong allergic reactions to their bites. And again, expanding on the fact that anybody that is along the water in Gloucester, whether you're boating, kayaking, swimming, or just sitting outside on anywhere, these greenheads are vicious. They are a nuisance. And if anybody has been bitten by them, they'll see the marks of it with the big welts that they leave on you. Their season is from June to September, with the highest density occurring the last 2 weeks of July to the first week of August. And this is also the height of summer for boaters and beachgoers. As I have mentioned, I've been in contact with Northeast Mosquito Control, which runs the North Shore Greenhead Fly Program, and I will refer to Barry to talk a little bit more about that. But I've also learned that every other coastal community from here right up to the New Hampshire border and actually over into New Hampshire, to some degree participates in the program, whether through Northeast Mosquito Control or over the border in New Hampshire through another company. I have learned that Essex, Manchester by the Sea, Ipswich, Newbury, Salisbury, Newburyport, and surprisingly, even Saugus participate in the program of the greenhead fly trap program. And I've also learned that Gloucester itself used to participate in the program back in the 1970s and the 1980s, at which time Gloucester had as many as 58 traps. But I'll give you the current numbers of what the communities are doing themselves right now. Essex alone has 40 boxes. Manchester by the Sea only has 4, but Ipswich has 200. Newbury has 87, Saugus 25, Salisbury 40, and Newburyport 13. So basically what I'm asking for your consideration and support is for Gloucester to re-enter into the greenhead trap program. And then I'm going to refer to Barry to speak again more specifically about the program and its costs. So Barry, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well, my name is Barry Noon, District Director of Mosquito Control, and Tom did a great job with his presentation. Took a lot of my firepower away. But I do have a quick presentation. If I could share that with you guys.
Yep, you have permission to share. Go right ahead.
Okay. You gonna work for me? Here we go. Oh, it's not working. I apologize. Why did that not work?
Because you needed it.
Yeah. Oh, come on. This is why I usually have my IT person with me. It was just there.
It looks like it showed up initially and then we lost it.
All right, so there it is. Now let me. Okay.
There we are.
There we go. Okay. All right. Everybody can see the screen?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes. Yep.
My name is Barry Noon again, as I said, and the first thing I want to start off with is that our North Shore Greenhead Fly Control Project is completely separate entity from our mosquito control project. There are two different funded sources, and anyone can be part of the Greenhead Fly project. They do not have to be part of our Greenhead, our mosquito control project. So first thing I'd like to start off with is greenhead flies are produced from our coastal salt marshes. They are usually found in healthy salt marsh areas, and some studies have shown greenheads can be bioindicators of negative impacts and recovery to the environments. For example, after oil spills, marsh water management by ditching may also enhance greenhead production. Their eggs and larvae are also a food source for wasps, coastal birds, and fish. However, they are notorious pests with significant economic effects due to their aggressive and painful blood feeding. We have an old saying that you need to carry a 5-pound hammer with you if you plan on killing a greenhead. It's the only thing that'll work. Since total elimination of the greenhead problem is impossible and ecologically undesirable, the most sensible approach to reduce the number of flies in high intensity at recreation areas such as beaches, marinas, and summer residences. We started the project in 1955 to bring relief to coastal areas of the North Shore. Each year, the marshes boxes are deployed each year at different locations throughout the district. In 1968, the project began to experiment with different devices designed to trap adult greenhead flies. The Manitoba trap from the Maine State Forest Service was modified and adapted for use here, as you can see in the picture, in Essex County. Our trap design uses basic fly behavior rather than insecticides or chemicals. Flies are attracted to the placement. Reflected heat, shape, and color will get the fly into the device. Then typically the fly flies directly up into the confinement area and become trapped. Our trap is also modified for coastal greenhead use in unpredictable, harsh salt marsh conditions. After 1922, we did put an octanol or ox breath bait in the traps, which increased the amount of flies that we were able to catch. Just a quick biology, the salt marsh horsefly, often called the greenhead fly, actually is two different species of tanidids. Both species are found on the salt marshes in the Atlantic coast from Nova Scotia all the way to Florida. Essex County adult flies are most abundant from July through mid-August. They're easy to identify. They have large iridescent green compound eyes with a single band running through the center of each eye. The rest of their body is a light buff of yellowish brown pale stripe running down their abdomen. And they can be at a minimum a half-inch long. The entire life cycle takes place around the salt marsh, although females will migrate up to 15 miles to seek a blood meal. Greenheads predominantly feed on the blood of humans and large mammals during the day. Some are known to transmit disease. Some tanabid species can transmit disease. Our greenhead species are not known to do so in humans, just pain and discomfort. The greenhead mouth parts include two sharp tools that look much like a pair of scissors. In seconds, they inject their mandibles into exposed flesh. These mandibles flex outwards, severing every capillary and vein they encounter. Just like the female mosquito, the female greenhead injects her saliva into your body when she first bites. The saliva is injected using a salivary pump that coats the wound with a burning antiseptic and anticoagulant chemical to keep the blood flowing without scabbing. This all causes intense pain to the victim. They quickly use spongy mouth parts to suck up the stimulated blood, and then they fly off, all before being swatted. Unfortunately, female greenhead flies are present and searching for blood on the beaches of Essex County when most visitors are using the beaches for recreation. The life cycle of an adult greenhead emerges in June to feed on nectar. Then the male on the open marsh then mate with the male, in early summer. Within a few days, the non-aggressive female lays her first fertilized eggs, up to 100 to 200 on the marsh grasses. After the first batch of eggs is deposited, she becomes extremely aggressive. And that's usually that first aggressive wave we get in July. She will migrate from marsh areas through gaps in the vegetation into wooded and open landscapes looking for a blood meal. Blood meals provide her with protein that is used to produce and develop additional eggs. The eggs mature and may stay on blades of salt marsh grass until hatching. The eggs hatch within 1 week into a worm-like larva. They can be as many as 80 mature larvae in a single square meter of marsh sod. Developing larvae concentrate along the upper vegetation zone and reach the daily high tides. In the late spring to early summer, the warming soil triggers the mature larvae to form into pupae. Depending on environmental conditions such as light temperature, tides, flying adults emerge from the pupae in within 10 days after a salt marsh flooding. Salt marsh soils up and down the coast warm at slightly different times, and the hatches can be staggered and more in the southern areas than the farther north areas. It is not unusual to have a heavy early summer peak than a second milder late summer peak in 1 year. A little bit about our operations. This is one of our most demanding and physical activities. Usually in February, we start new trap construction. Every year we cycle out the severely damaged traps that can't be repaired and build entirely new ones. We will also build traps for any new municipalities that may join the program. We construct new panels, legs, inner framework, screens, and tops. All these pieces are coated with 2 coats of black paint prior to assembly. In May, we begin to deploy the traps in the season in the communities. We take them out of storage, bait each one with octanol lure, and then transport them to the site. We have over 450 traps, and it takes multiple loads of transportation out to the rivers and towards the salt marshes in the district. Many traps are also put out by boat as well as hand. In June through late September, our traps sit there and basically do their job and collect thousands upon thousands of greenhead flies. Our retrieval starts in September, and we bring the traps in where we clean them and start basically filing through them to see what can be repaired, what needs to be destroyed, and we do it all over again every year. Here's a couple pictures of trap placement. With the biology of the fly, we tend to put out straight lines. Other communities, other mosquito controls such as Cape Cod do a staggered approach. Dragon mosquito control up in Hampton likes to do clusters. What we do is we put the traps in straight lines as basically buffers out near the water's edge to create that wall to the protected areas. And it's been highly effective for the last 25, 30 years since we started implementing them that way. As Tom had said earlier, these are the communities that have traps. Essex entered about 5 years ago, 5 years ago. Ipswich has been there a long time. Manchester a couple of years ago came on. Newbury, Salisbury, and Saugus have been there as well. Next slide, based on what we were thinking, just as a potential, I found some data from when we used to put the traps out in Gloucester and around Wingaersheek Beach. This is just kind of like a slight proposed of the 20 traps that we could potentially start with you guys this year. But as you can see, we would build that protection up against the beach and hopefully, limit the amount of flies that are going to come to that heavily recreational area, the north there on the beach. And as always, we recommend that people wear protectant repellent for greenheads. Good luck, usually a quick hand or a 5-pound hammer, like I said before. Light colored clothing, long sleeves, pants when possible. Take advantage of windy days, even though I have been out on the boat in the mouth of the river before in the middle of July and have been almost carried away by greenheads. Us who do a lot of stuff on the river know to avoid the river during those peak times. Also screened in porches, heavy breathing, all that stuff can kind of limit the dangers of being bit by a greenhead. And if anyone has any questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. There we go.
I have a question.
Yep.
So do the traps currently use the octanol repellent or attractant?
It's an attractant. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was kind of looking up on the EPA, the ingredient, its use and safety and everything like that. So what kind of concerns would you have, like environmentally, and then also for people for that chemical?
So that chemical is in like a little 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wafer wrapped in plastic with some holes that's attached to the inside of the trap. So it's not easily accessible. The trap is bolted shut. We tend to put the traps where they're extremely hard to reach by people. Usually, not all the time, there is some hand lines, usually by boat. They're in areas that would make it very difficult for people. And actually, we use the typical wafer, we actually use half the amount, and we've seen the same results. And we've never had an issue with any field tech with using that chemical, and I've never had any complaints from anyone. And we always make sure that it stays within the trap so it doesn't become trash or litter or hurt the environment that it's actually in.
Does
Very,
it attract,
sorry, Kelly, go on.
does it attract other pests or insects?
So what we found is it does help attract the greenheads. We do get some other like spiders, maybe a couple moths, but it's really, really typically just the greenheads we get in there.
That was exactly the question I was about to ask, what the
Yeah.
bycatch, as it were, is.
Yeah. If it attracted like anything else, say dragonflies or praying mantises or anything else, we wouldn't use it. You know, we're environmentally conscious program. We'd like to think that when we say we're either out there for mosquito control or for greenhead mitigation, that's exactly what we want to do.
Do you know why? Oh, sorry. I don't
No,
want to
go
take
ahead,
over
go
all the
ahead.
questions.
Go ahead.
Do we know why Gloucester left the program in like the 80s? Was it funding or? were there concerns?
I personally don't know. The last guy who worked with us that had been here back in the early 80s, late 70s, has retired. I'm just not 100% sure. It could be funding. I know there has been price increases through the years, and especially currently with the price of lumber, trying to get material. It's definitely probably a consideration based on the 80s and some of the recessions back then, that municipalities probably could have cut them to save even a couple $1,000s back then.
So did I understand that you said you would start with 20?
I have enough on hand to start with at least 20 or whatever you guys, if you decide to move forward. I have 20 to give this year, just because if I knew you wanted 40 and you knew you were going to approve it, I would have already built them.
Somehow I thought I saw a larger number.
So back in the 70s, back in the 70s and 80s, Gloucester used to put out 58 traps, 58, 60 traps.
So ultimately, we would be looking to at least do a minimum of that number and possibly exceed that if we could. But really for this year to get started, the most you could offer us would be 20 because of that's what's already built.
Okay.
That's what's already built. Then I need time to scout boat ramps, scout the marsh behind Wingaersheek Beach, if that's even where you want to put them. A lot of these decisions can be up to you guys. You can spread them out more. I think if you spread out 20 traps somewhere else in Gloucester, like over at Good Harbor Beach or something, it's not going to be as effective. You'd probably need more traps to do that.
Right. What we'd be hoping to do is at least start from the mouth of Jones River towards Wingaersheek.
Yeah.
And that's what your slide showed, was right there at the mouth of the Jones River.
Yeah.
And covering that area, and over by Stone Pier where a lot of the kayakers put in and go out in the Jones River area and towards Wingaersheek. So we'd be looking to cover that whole area from the mouth of the Jones River over by where the houseboats are. For those of you that use the river would know, right up into the Wingaersheek Beach full area there.
And I had forwarded, go ahead, Max.
No, I apologize. A couple of different things. I do have a couple of questions of my own, but I also want to recognize that Shellfish Constable Peter Seminara is, I promoted him to a panelist and he would like to speak. And so I'd like to hear from Pete first before I follow with my own comments and questions.
Yeah.
You're all set, Pete, go right ahead.
Thank you, Max. I support Mr. Quinn's desire to have traps put in. I'm on that river for half of my year, and the greenheads are a major nuisance. Barry, it looks like the location that you showed on your map would be the optimum location, as Mr. Quinn said, from the mouth of the Jones River to the north along Wingaersheek Beach and then up behind Coffins. And if you need assistance, if this is approved and you need assistance scouting out locations, by all means, let me know and I'd be glad to assist. I spent half the year back there, so.
Absolutely.
I could just want to say, as a kayaker, that's where I kayak mostly, and I just don't go during that 3 or 4 week period because it's that unbearable.
Yeah.
You know, especially kayaking, you're not going that fast like in a power boat. You can try to get away from it, but in a kayak, you cannot. So my question, Max, is about how we would pay for this.
Oh, so, well, that gets back to one of the points I was going to bring up, but I still have a couple of questions I want to ask as well.
Yeah.
In regards to that, so what is before the board this evening is just a request from Mr. Quinn to provide a sort of a blessing, as it were, from the board that the board approves of this moving forward, but the ultimate decision is going to lie with the administration, and the administration will have to bring it to council, and the council will have to discuss and vote and allocate funding to it that way. We're in budget season, as I'm sure Mr. Quinn isn't hyper aware of. And so it would have to be sooner rather than later, and that's why we're kind of at the point we're at. But as a follow-up to that, recognizing that everything's part of a cycle, and I understand the greenheads are incredibly a nuisance, but I'm curious as to both sides. What else do greenheads eat besides chomping on people? Do they have other nuisance insects that maybe they find as a food source? What's the efficacy of the boxes? Oh, excuse me, forgive me, before I even go to that. On the other side, what eats a greenhead? So are there migratory birds that rely on them and that sort of thing? And then follow up to that, what's the efficacy? Because I think and forgive me if I'm not remembering correctly, did I hear 30 larvae per square foot or thereabouts? So if that's the case, what's the hopeful, at least, efficacy rate for the percentage of greenheads that could be eliminated by a box or several boxes? I'm sorry, that's a lot.
Yeah, so there are birds that do feed on the greenheads. This is not greenhead elimination. This is just to help. We've had years where certain communities said, wow, they were really light this year. The boxes must really work, which they do work. And then other years when, say, Salisbury said we had a very light year, and we go out to Ipswich residents and they say they were the worst they ever experienced. And so we go and check on the boxes, and we've got 8, 10, 12, 15,000 flies in there. Still getting bit while we're checking them, still getting bit when we place them out. It's the dent we put in the population doesn't hurt the predation around it, because there's just so many, and the marsh is so big. So I really just need to stress that it's not elimination, because when we do put them out, we actually have residents who call and say, I got bit by a greenhead, and they get extremely mad at us. And I have to say that it's not elimination. It's impossible, and that would be bad for the environment.
No, and Barry, don't get me wrong. I'm just bringing these forward just as considerations, not necessarily as opinions.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm sorry, what did you ask me?
Oh, so sorry. The other thing is, all right, so birds will eat the greenheads, but what else do the greenheads eat besides chomping on humans for blood?
Or any mammals. It's really humans or mammals is what they like to bite the most. That we've found anyway in some of our research.
But they don't predate on other insects, for instance.
Let me double check. Not that I really know of.
I did read one article where the greenhead larvae feed on deer flies in the marsh. However, as Barry said, these projects don't realistically put a dent in the population of the greenheads. They're not an eradication. They're a stopgap measure during tourist season.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. I'm all set, Barry. Thank you.
Yep.
Do we have a ballpark number as to what the cost would be for, say, 20 boxes deployed?
Yep. So 20 boxes would be $2,500. That's just for initial construction. And then we do $82 a season per trap for deployment, repairs, replacement, and storage. So for this year, it'd be $2,500 initially, plus the 82 times 20 would be $4,140 for the season. If Gloucester decided to come on, you can come on at a 3-year contract with us, where the initial upfront cost goes away, and it's just $82 a trap for those 3 years to maintain the traps. Or you can do year to year, where that 82 will be subject to fluctuations in price of lumber, repair, and everything else. And as of right now, every municipality that's in our program is in our 3-year cycle.
I just want to state for the board, excuse me, I don't think the cost of the having the traps should be a consideration of the board necessarily. It's whether or not they feel that the traps will have an efficacy that's beneficial to health, human safety, and the quality of life. It certainly meets the quality of life standard on that end. Human safety, if you want to count people running away from them and possibly tripping over and hurting themselves. But, that's a qualitative, estimate on the board's part. And again, the vote would be to recommend or not to the city council, and we would draft language appropriately as a memo to the mayor's office in support of or against, but it sounds like we're heading in support of having them put in.
Would you be able, I'm sorry, can I just say one more thing? If you guys do approve it tonight, and then you bring it to the city council and then they vote on it, and I finally got, say, my final answer, how late would that be in the season from now?
Well, it's city council cycles every 2 weeks. We have to get in our information in for the mayor's report at usually on the Thursdays before the city council meetings, or Wednesdays before the city council meetings. So it would be soon. I think the next city council meeting is April 12th. So if I were able to get it done tomorrow, I could get it in for next week.
Okay, I was just curious if it was going to be, say, the middle of June. It just wouldn't work out.
No, I think in all honesty, I apologize. I think I may have missed the deadline, or we may have missed the deadline for the next city council meeting. The next one would be April 26th. So
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Max, and just for the board members as well, I have spoken to City Councilor Val Gilman, who's very supportive of this, as well as the Harbor Master TJ Shimataro and the Shellfish Constable who is on here tonight. Is there any way that we might be able to try to push this forward for that next City Council meeting, especially where it looks like we have their support? And also, I want to note that, I know that this is the Board of Health, but this isn't, we're not pushing it that it's a health issue, but it's a quality of life issue. And that's really the big thing that we're trying to push forward here, that it's more of a quality of life thing for anybody that is near the water.
Well, Tom, I would imagine that, the mayor's office is not going to only take our input. I mean, and obviously Peter's and as well as TJ, but the harbor master, but I'm sure they're also going to want to hear from the Conservation Commission, most especially, aside from us. So has this week gone before Concom just yet?
No, you guys are the first folks that I've presented this to, because my little bit of research has showed me that this starts with the Board of Health, that the Board of Health somewhat has jurisdiction over this this type of an issue.
Interesting. I haven't heard that myself, but
and maybe
sure we'll
Barry
slow
could
anything
speak a
down.
little bit more. Barry, what have you found in other communities?
It's directly with the Board of Health. We usually don't talk to the Concom about it. I personally never have. So it's usually the Board of Health. They approve it or not, or change the amount of traps they want the fund at a certain time, and we go from there.
Yeah, that's if it's presented, I would imagine, through the administration would have to decide which department would be the gatekeeper for this, and who would oversee on behalf of the city, who would oversee the implementation and the expenditures. But the administration would have to make that decision themselves. I'd have to look it up because I'm unaware of it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Don't get me wrong. So it's just something we have to consider, because it's an added responsibility to the department where, yes, there is a public health benefit, possibly, certainly public quality of life. However, I have to be, aware of department staff time and capacity. So I just have, for the board to take that into consideration as well. And I can, relate that to the administration in my memo to them as well.
Okay, so I'm a little confused now, Max, because I was ready, to make a motion that to support this to move forward, but I'm also aware of how overburdened the staff of the health department is, and so I wouldn't want to put more burden on the staff. And so where are you in your thoughts about that?
So, well, I'm just starting to have them, so that's one thing. But, I think there's no problem with the board moving forward if they choose to provide their support to this project. It will be a discussion with the administration at that point to decide with which department it would sit, whether it's Shellfish, whether it's the harbor master. We generally don't have jurisdiction in Shellfish Flats and marshes by and large. However, and that discussion would allow me an opportunity to get a little bit more background from Barry and from Tom as to how this has worked in other communities. And so I have a better idea and reach out to my colleagues in those communities that they've listed as well. So I would say that, we could definitely get that done for the meeting of the 26th for the city council. I don't think we're going to get this conversation done in time for the city council meeting of the 12th.
So in that case, then I would make a motion that we support this project of adding these greenhead boxes, and that we move it forward to the next step, which is the city council.
This is, Claudia, this would be specifically the 20 boxes to be
The
deployed.
20, exactly. Yeah.
Can we add like a caveat? Like I know, Barry, you said you've never presented to the Conservation Commission, but I don't know if that could be an add-on, like request from the board to just have it be blessed, I guess, by them as well.
Yeah, that's totally up to you guys.
Yeah, we would just put a special condition with it, that's all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
With that proviso, I would second Claudia's motion.
Could I just ask that, in addition to going forward, for the 20 boxes, but that we also ask for the full consideration of the administration to at least do the full amount for the following year. I mean, if we ask for the full amount, but Barry can only supply us with 20, then we don't have to go through the process again. We've got the full support of the full amount. He will only be able to fulfill a portion of that full amount for this year, if that
What
makes
is the
sense.
full amount? What's,
Well, what
58.
would, yeah, go ahead, Barry.
Traditionally, Gloucester had 58 boxes.
58? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think,
Go ahead.
I think that should just be part of the proposal to, or information provided to the administration and city council that the apparent requisite coverage for Gloucester would be 58 boxes, and that would entail 58 times $82 a year if we go into 3-year purchase. I just think that makes life easier all the way around to just make the administration and city council fully aware of what the optimal, I guess, in quotes, solution might be.
Forgive me, just one follow-up question. I know there's been a motion and seconded, but Barry, if I can interrupt you for a sec. In regards to the placement of them, I'm guessing that your organization has all the requisite state permissions to go onto the marshes, install these things. And when they are installed, are they hammered in, or how?
They're hammered in with stakes,
Okay.
2-foot stakes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Just because the tides are getting higher and higher. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just was curious. Oh, and also, just so folks know, Dr. Ganem had to sign off, but before he signed off, he gave his full support as well. If you want to add that to the consideration.
Good. Is there any further discussion? So the Max, can you repeat what the motion is on the floor?
Sure.
Do you know that?
So the motion would be for the board to provide a memo of support through the department to the administration for the implementation of 58, I think we heard. I almost said mosquito. Greenhead control boxes at designated sites to be determined by Mr. Noon and his organization for their efficacy, for the comfort and well-being of people who use the area recreationally, and that with the caveat that the board expects that there is a need for the Conservation Commission to approve this proposal as well. And I think that's pretty much it. It'll be formulated around that.
Yeah, and for information purposes, I think it's worth pointing out, especially since the price is lower, that this year the expectation would be that only 20 boxes would be provided at whatever cost it is.
58 total, fine, by next year.
Right.
Okay, got it.
And then we had probably just asked the administration for at least a 3-year commitment to keep the cost less, as Barry had mentioned.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Can I just interject one thing?
of course.
I believe that all that would be required on the Conservation Commission side would be an RDA to show that they've granted permission for installation if it is approved by the city for funding.
So RDA, for those who don't know, is request for determination of applicability. Drawing from my old hat.
Thank you, Peter. Any further comments, discussion?
Can I ask, do you want to add the 3-year commitment to the motion? The board didn't actually say that, so.
Right, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Max can no doubt incorporate much in the in his letter to the administration. Sure, we can add to the motion. That should be
Yeah.
part of the motion to that.
And what I'll do, Joe, is I'll create a draft and I'll forward it to you for review.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Further discussion, comments? Let's vote. The chair votes yes. Claudia,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes,
Kelly,
Yes.
and can we assume that Don is also in favor?
He was
Max?
definitely in favor. We'll include that as, yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry.
Okay, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Peter,
Thank you.
Tom?
thank you.
Thank you, board members. So
yes,
is there
thank you.
anything more that Barry and I need to do from this point on to take it to the administration, or do you guys just take it from here and roll out? Because this
Yeah, no,
process is new to me.
Yeah, no, that's quite all right. It's new to us as well, to tell you the truth. But it would, yeah, typical is to create a memo that would go to the administration, Jill Cahill, the CAO. She is aware that we were talking about this evening. They said that that's what their expectation would be.
And I will follow up with you, Max, tomorrow morning with an email basically about the first 20 for this year, the rollout, the cost, and then
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
the cost for the next 38 traps next year, and the commitment for 3 years.
Perfect. Thank you, Barry. I appreciate
Yep. Yep.
Looking forward to a more enjoyable summer of kayaking.
I hope so.
All right, let's move on to the last item under new business, I believe, which is a discussion regarding BioBot recording and a potential future contract. Max.
So we approached the administration to ask about, continued funding for the BioBot testing that we're doing. We currently have a funding revenue stream through the FEMA funding that we had previously been receiving. That fades out as of June 30th. So the administration requested that, we have a discussion with the board, recognizing that obviously the BioBot testing has been incredibly beneficial when it comes to detecting COVID, but what else could we possibly test for that would be beneficial for the community to know? BioBot, as people may remember, they didn't get their start in COVID. They actually got their start in doing testing for opiates and for narcotics in the wastewater, so that communities could get a better idea of what the issue may be for them. And so in follow-up to that discussion and prior to this meeting, I did have a discussion with one of the representatives of BioBot. We are going to be having a further discussion tomorrow afternoon as to more details, but I was able to get from them that they are able to measure fentanyl, nicotine, which is very interesting, cocaine, and methamphetamine. As they said, unfortunately, they don't do oxycodones of any sort. But even fentanyl and actually the nicotine would be very interesting because we, in the past we have done a lot of nicotine work, and methamphetamines would be especially good to have. I know our prevention group would be very interested to get that information, and it'd be my recommendation to, if costing works for the administration, obviously, that we that the board recommend to the administration that we include however many of those items that we can to the testing protocol.
I would certainly second that. I think BioBot has been very consistently accurate in their reporting. It's very, if you look at the reporting that has been done in Boston by other agencies, some of it, the curves virtually overlap. It's just amazing, actually. And it's obviously given us quite a bit of information, and also the appropriate amount of angst is raised when the things peak, and a certain amount of what's the word, calming effect when things go down. As they are now, they're ticking up a little bit, but I guess we'll see tomorrow whether it goes up even further. But I think just the COVID data in and of itself has been very good. The analysis of the opiates is a totally different scheme. It still starts with wastewater, but it uses mass spectrometry to analyze, not PCR, obviously. But that's what they cut their teeth on, actually. So they are certainly capable of doing that as well. So I'm all in favor, at least for starters, to see what we can learn. It would be very useful, I think, for the community to know what's going on. I don't know what the prices are, Max, or where the money's coming from to do this.
So the idea would be is that the discussion we're going to have tomorrow is going to give us a better idea. We already know what the COVID testing costs us. It's approximately $2,100 a month. The question is going to be, okay, to however many of these drugs that we are looking for, these chemicals, how much would each cost, essentially. So we're going to the market and checking, and tomorrow they'll let me have a little bit more information. There may be a reduction in cost for the greater number of tests, that sort of thing, but I don't know. That's the conversation of tomorrow, so we'll see from there.
Good.
Well, I have some questions or concerns. So obviously continue the COVID-19. I agree with Joe that that's a reliable source of predictor for our numbers in our area. In terms of the other measures for, drugs, so we're going to get that information, right? We're going to have that data. What are we doing with it? Like, what is there a plan for, like, public health interventions? Is there a plan for the messaging around it? Is it going to be used as a scare tactic? I just have concerns around, really, I mean, not trying to hide the issue. Obviously, we talk about substance use disorder, but I just wonder, like, what does the prevention team, what are their thoughts on it and how they could use that data? It's great to have the numbers, but what does it mean? How do we formulate our priorities as a health department and a board of health to address those numbers? Are we going to be seeing them? What if we start seeing them go up? Are we going to be like, oh, we have a bunch of, I don't know. We get one stop in to do testing, and like, what does that look like, I guess, is my questions and concerns.
I think that's a great question, Kelly. And I have no idea what the appropriate answer is. One of the things that might be useful is we can ask BioBot what they can tell us what other communities are doing. But I guess just having information is a useful starting point. And we may decide after 6 months that, the numbers are bouncing around, but staying relatively constant. And we can ask your question about, so what's happening? Are we trying to drive the numbers down or whatever? My own sense is that just getting information is likely to push us in one direction or another. Those two options being, yes, things are peaking at a particular time of year. And there are certain things that we can do. Police department can use the data. As things go up, maybe messaging regarding prevention is more useful. I don't know, but I think given the data, I think we may be able to come up with something more rational. That's I agree is not a great answer at this point, but I'm all in favor of just getting data. And if we find after some relatively short period and hopefully short money that it's not leading us anywhere, then there's no point in continuing.
Yeah, and I thought about the police department. I think that would be really helpful information for them to have. If the numbers are going way up, does that mean, because like, we hear that heroin is laced with fentanyl and people are dying, not from the heroin, so for surveillance purposes, if they start to see a sharp increase, can they increase their surveillance, or, what does that mean? And the messaging.
But that's an unknown. I think Kelly's absolutely right as to the details. It's not obvious how you actually react to the to spike in numbers or the decrease in numbers for that matter. But I think it would be useful if BioBot can point us in the direction of some communities. They may feel that they're not at liberty to tell us about who else is doing these things. But if we can get in touch with other communities and ask how they're using the data and whether or not it's been useful, that's one step.
Yeah.
But I personally think it's all about how much it's going to cost us, because while I think the data is extremely valuable, it has its price. So we'll see.
Yeah, my point behind it would be that we don't know what we don't know until we know it, and we don't know how to respond to what we don't know until we know.
Yeah.
So until we get the information in hand and start seeing what it is and what the trends are, only then can we start with an informed discussion as to how best to move forward.
Yeah.
But in order to be able to do that, you have to have some solid quantitative analysis that draws from literally pretty much everywhere in the city, and it's unobtrusive to everybody's lives, but it does give, and this is what I really want to find out, how accurate it is. And I agree with Kelly, we need, and with you, Joe, that we need to know how this has benefited other communities, how they've utilized the information for best effect. And I agree, after 6 months, if it looks like, I don't think so, not so much, then fine, we can withdraw our recommendation. We don't have to continue the contract. We can say it's a 6-month contract for both the for the waste, for the COVID information, but also for, the opiate information. But again, we don't know until we try.
Right, but the police department might say, gee, maybe it's not helpful to the health department, but the police department might say, we're finding it really helpful. Or the one, stop harm reduction, they might say, it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's helpful to the health department. So.
Right.
Okay, so I will have the conversation tomorrow and inform the board of the outcome of that discussion, and we can move forward from there.
Good. What are we here? Old business. Pest control, municipal pest control updates. Is there something to report there?
Rachel's on board for that one.
Yes. In response to the memo that we sent jointly with the school committee to DPW several months ago, I followed up with Director Michael Hill and corresponded with him, inquiring about the details of pest control within the school system. And he communicated to me that purchasing would be the folks to contact about that, as they are the ones aware and in charge of all contracts within the city. I spoke to purchasing. Purchasing expressed to me that there are no active and have not been in the last several years, which is the time frame that I asked about. No active or recent contracts with pest control companies for the schools. However, Stacy Capone did tell me from purchasing that if there are purchase orders that would happen within the school system, and gave me the contact information for the chief financial officer. And Gary, the chief financial officer of the school system, told me that they do have from last year 2 POs for pest control at the preschool. However, DPW is in charge of managing POs for the rest of the schools, save the preschool. So I think there might be some confusion, probably, unintentionally, just among the powers that be, about where that information exactly is. And so after speaking with Max, I'd like to suggest we involve the administration to assist us in investigating exactly what's going on. I believe that I've exhausted the line of questioning that I'm capable of doing at this point. So I think it'd be most appropriate for folks from the administration to assist us in that.
Yeah, as well as the superintendent. I mean, the schools fancy themselves outside of the what the administration may want to do. So it might be, if it's possible, to involve both Ben and Lummis and the mayor or Jill or whoever in making us compliant with laws. I think is Eric has made this point many times in the past, that there are laws on the books that we're supposed to be adherent to.
Yeah.
And so we should be.
Absolutely. And I will say that I did request copies not only of the POs, but of the invoices of the 2 instances of pest control at the preschool that occurred, neither of which contained meaningful details whatsoever. So I'll be following up with the pest control company directly to get the specific information that we are required to have.
Right. Okay.
But it didn't we hear through Patty Page or somebody that there was once a month somebody was coming in from the DPW and signing off on something that?
Yes. We did receive a complaint through another citizen, Marianne Boucher. Also, I've been working with Patty and Marcia, who have also brought it to our attention that there has been pest control actively going on at East Gloucester School. So we know that has been occurring. So there's clearly some confusion within the system somehow about what exactly is occurring, how often, and what chemicals are being used. My most recent understanding of the East Gloucester situation, specifically based on what the facilities team communicated to me, the custodial team there, is that those boxes were removed. So I do not believe that's actively occurring. However, we do need more details on that, when it occurred, what chemicals were used, if it was a rat box, and what kind of rat box it was. So, so yeah, you are correct on that, Claudia.
Right, but we also heard something about that once a month, something is signed off on at each school, that something has been done, but nobody seemed to know what it was and who was responsible and all of that.
Yeah, I believe that the nature of the purchase order was a reoccurring monthly pest control contract.
Right.
Yeah.
But no further information. We don't have any other further information.
No, it just, the line item on the POs and invoices were pest control, and with no further details.
You gotta do better.
Yeah.
The fog of pest control, I think.
Forgive me, Joe, just so you know, both Marcia Hart and Patty Page are in attendance and both have their hands raised to speak. It's up to you as to whether or not you want to allow.
either or both of them can speak on this issue, but please respect the fact that we're going on to our second hour here. So please try to be brief. So
Marcia, go right ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep,
Sure.
go right ahead.
Yep.
Well, as a public citizen, I've sat through the whole meeting, Joe, and listened to everything else that you've had to talk about. So please be
Understood,
patient
Marcia.
with, Patty and I have been very patient with these issues and not harassing you over the many months since we first brought this to your attention. I don't believe, Kelly, are you a new member of the Board of Health? I missed the first couple of minutes when people identified themselves.
Yes, I
Well,
started last month.
just to back up a moment, I approach this issue because I follow climate legislation. And I do that with a local climate group, and I follow about 300 bills at the start of the session. It gets narrowed down to 35 bills. And one of the things that I do to try and verify if I'm identifying important legislation in the state is to see what about 10 different organizations are doing in terms of prioritizing their climate legislation. So I'm not a pest control person, I'm an organic gardener, but this bill came to my attention. There's a bill in our state legislation this session, which was has been moved forward with a favorable recommendation to the next committee level. And they're the committee that will decide if this is going to get voted on by the legislation or not. And it's an extremely strict pesticide policy in terms of exposing children to chemicals. So I don't have the background to comment on, each of the chemicals, but what I've been sort of surprised at is how little information people in the city had about this issue. So the Board of Health seemed to know very little about it. The school committee seemed to know nothing about it. And again, it's been a process of trying to, it's like the shell game where what is going on. I just like to know what's going on. And so there are several groups. Mothers Out Front is a very well-established and great advocacy group that has prioritized this particular bill, as well as the Northeast Organic Farmers Organization and the Pollinators Network and the Climate Action Now of Western Massachusetts. So they have created a letter that they're looking for signatures on from community groups, from medical professionals, from boards of health. And it's, I just got this the other day, 2 days ago, and I forwarded it to Rachel. One of the links, and I hope that Rachel, you will send that Google document to all of the members, because there's a tremendous amount of information about the bill, for one thing, just so you're aware of it, because I believe climate legislation in terms of pesticides is going to, it seems to be a growing issue. So at some point, you should just be aware of it and what's in this. There's also a link in that particular Google document that will take you to every community in Massachusetts. And if you click on Gloucester, it will take you to each IPM or integrated pest management plan for each school and daycare center, and any place there are children has to sign one of these plans for what they're going to use. And it lists the chemicals and it lists the Board of Health, and it's very informative. So again, I don't have the background to interpret any of the chemical substances and give you any sort of recommendation. I'm just concerned about people being aware of this and the American Pediatric Association has stated that the influences of low-level pesticide exposure in children's health is an increasing concern. And they wrote that in 2012. But the list that's being used by the state for what's acceptable dates back beyond that. So we have a very old list of usable pesticides that are legally approved in our school system. So that is up for review in our legislature. And there are a lot of people who feel that it should be a list that's very limited to what is minimal risk or only used for organic land. So that's what the bill basically is asking for, is that very limited use around children because of the potential effects on kids being more vulnerable than adults are. So I don't expect this Board of Health, I don't expect anybody in Gloucester to really take a proactive legislative stand on this, but the bill brings up the issue. And the Mass Teachers Association has signed on to this letter that's being circulated by these climate groups. The Northampton, Amherst, Winthrop Boards of Health have signed on to it. New York and Connecticut in 2015 passed similar legislation. Cambridge School Committee, Northampton School Committee, and Somerville School Committee have all signed on to this letter that's being circulated, and the Wellesley Natural Resources Commission. So it's not just, it's something that has growing attention among municipalities, boards of health. So I really would like you to put some adequate attention. I mean, we came with this issue many, many months ago now at the beginning of the school year, and now we're heading towards the end of it. And I can't believe that it's been this difficult to find out some credible answers from our city officials when you're the Board of Health. I mean, I'm just sort of astounded by the whole thing. And Patty is the person who knows about the mosquito issues. I'm the one who follows this issue more. And I wish I could offer you more expertise, but I don't have it to give. So thank you very much.
Marcia, thank you so much. And I believe this item on the agenda is sort of twofold, the bill that you referenced and the pest control in the schools. And because you did send me all of that very useful information yesterday or the day before, I would suggest that we move that to a line item for the next board meeting so that we all have the opportunity to look at that information and comment after we're educated on that. Again, I know that there are several new board members who were not present when we first began discussing this.
Yeah, that would be great. It's a well put together document, and you may or may not agree with the strictness of what they're asking for. You should just be really well aware of what's proceeding on the state level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcia.
Sure.
You're muted, Max.
My turn. I just wanted to note that Patty Page still has her hand raised.
Sure.
Joe,
Yep.
Okay. Patty, go right ahead, please.
Hi, thank you, Max, and thank you, Joe. I'm sorry for everything you're going through, Rachel. That's not fair to you or your time. I didn't pull any of the documents that I had provided. They were months ago. But the bottom line is that's why we had asked Joe Lucido to come in front of the board, because Joe Lucido signed those contracts. So I know that's another subject for another day, but I appreciate you trying to run all that down. And I'm so sorry what you've been through, Rachel.
It's okay. Don't apologize. It's my pleasure to follow up.
Well, yeah, but you're all right. I'm just going to move on. Breaking news tomorrow. You'll be notified, I believe. I have a notice here from Senator Comerford's office that the municipal opt-out mosquito control application from the state will be posted tomorrow. And the deadline for that this year will be May 27th. So I know Max probably vividly remembers the exercise last year. It has to go through the Board of Health and the City Council, be wrapped up and sent back to the state. So we're hoping that some of you are new here, that we can go forward with opting out this year. Which brings me to the second update. The Mosquito Control Task Force for the 21st Century sent their recommendations to the legislature on the new proposed mosquito control policies. I must caveat, the recommendation's been sent to the legislature. What happens at this point, I'm not clear. I'm just going to tell you what they've moved forward and what we should be looking out for. They're going to create a new oversight board to replace the current state reclamation board. So there's a whole reorganization of that whole organizational change. I'm sorry that the mosquito control guy didn't hang on with us. They're going to establish funding mechanisms for mosquito control, and they're going to create a centralized mosquito control program. Now, what that means to us in Gloucester is we will be required as a municipality to become a member of a mosquito control district. That's, if this all passes and this policy goes through, this is how it's going to go. We can get either basic services at state funding or additional services, which will be municipal funded. But when they say state funded basic services, they mean right out of the cherry sheet. So I think that's just a back-ended way of each municipality paying for that. Basic services would be education, surveillance, and source reduction performed by state and supported by state tax dollars.
So Patty, if I could just interrupt. So
yes, sir.
Just to add to that. So from what I heard you just say, that surveillance would be part of membership without having to address anything with regard to literal control measures. Is that what I heard?
I believe that's how I understand it. Right now, the state does testing everywhere, anywhere. It's not disclosed to us specifically. And I believe that's true, isn't it, Max? Even though we're not part of a mosquito control district, they can come and test intermittently anywhere they want. I don't know.
That may be true, but I'm not aware of any location in the city of Gloucester where they are doing that monitoring. Typically, what winds up happening when we explore this in the past, at least, is that when you become part of the mosquito control district, you pay a certain amount, like you said, based on cherry sheet amounts. And at that time, it was 80-something odd $1,000 for mandated 3-year contract with mosquito control district. And that amount did not change based on what services you use. So in other words, if you wanted just surveillance and not to use anything else, it was $80,000. If you wanted surveillance with education outreach notifications or something like that, or spraying, it was still $80,000. Or if you wanted aerial spraying, it was $80,000. So I'm not sure if any, I've not seen anything recently at least, that says that we'll have the ability to basically a la carte services, which will likely still require the 3-year contract, but I have not heard or seen anything yet. If you have information on that, please forward it to myself or Rachel again. That'd be good to have.
Okay, Max, I'll thank you, and I will send the recommendations as the task force forward them up. That's all I have at the moment. And it does look like there'll be basic services. Again, the surveillance, the source reduction, and the education. And that will be I'm sure not at the $80,000 level. They're going to be prorating this based upon services, but those will be taken out of our cherry sheet back ends.
That's how they make their
or some kind of
estimations,
state tax portion. So I just wanted to bring this up tonight. And hopefully, if you can just, I don't know how to do this, but maybe place mark on the next Board of Health meeting. The opt-out, I think by then, it should be posted tomorrow. By then I can get it to Max. So Max will be getting it from Divisional Services, Board of Health, everyone will get it. And I'll get that I'll bring that to your attention, City Council, as quickly as I get it.
Yeah.
It's maybe a 5 or 6 week turnaround. So, and with council's just very busy right now. They have big issues, but
No, thank you, Marshall. I'll make sure that we have it on the May agenda.
okay. And
Excuse me, Marshall, Patty, I apologize.
that's all right. That's all right. We're both together. Okay, and I'm not clear about the greenhead boxes are clearly part, it's an auxiliary service from the Northeast Mosquito Control District. I'm a little sorry, I'm a little stunned, but we're gonna start putting pesticide boxes on our marshes where our beach goers are. My one question would have been, how far does the bait attract greenheads? Because if it's 12 feet or quarter of a mile, we don't really know. Whatever's emanating out of those boxes attract the flies. You're going to put those right behind a beach where beachgoers are. I don't want to say it is safe or it isn't safe, but it just would have been, it rose to my attention that if something emanates out of a box enough to attract a fly, we should know what that area is, I guess is what I'm asking. How far from the box does this emanate to attract those greenheads?
My understanding is that they attract greenheads by emulating the shape of a mammal. The boxes.
No. It's an octanol in it. That's a bait. That's emanating from that box. That's a pesticide.
Okay.
That guy.
I know that there's the pesticide inside, but
yeah, there's a pesticide tablet inside that's sitting there in the sun, in the breeze.
No, it's an attractant. It's not a pesticide. It doesn't kill.
No, it's a pesticide. I already looked it up. It's a pesticide. It emanates from the box. It baits the greenhead, so it's emanating out. So they come towards that bait. That's
right.
That's how the
But
process works.
And then they enter the box and can't get out.
Right, but the pesticide itself is emanating out of the box to attract that fly. How far does it emanate out?
It's an attractant.
Yeah, right. So how far is it 10 feet? Is it 1,000? Is it a quarter mile? I don't have those answers, but when I saw the map across the beach, okay. I thank you for allowing me that editorial.
Okay.
Don't laugh, Max. I see you. Thank you. I know it's late and I appreciate it. We'll continue to work with Rachel. Oh, no, we won't. You have someone else coming in. So thank you, Rachel, for all your time.
it's my pleasure. And for the time being, I will still be your contact until further notice and maybe forever. So.
Okay.
However it works. I just have one comment. Once you get the information, Rachel or Max, please make sure I get it, because I will talk to my cousin, who's the entomologist, and try to go through the material with him and find out exactly what all this stuff is, because he'll know the answers to the questions. I just need to get more information to give to him.
Good.
I will circulate an email tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any more on that issue? No. Let's move on to whatever we can add regarding COVID.
So just a quick update. I know it's late and we have a few other things to cover. But just so the board members are aware, we had a meeting today with Cindy Junker and Bridget Nelligan, with Rachel and myself, to discuss second booster clinics. We've been in communication with the Gloucester Housing Authority, focusing on providing boosters to their residents first, but we also are looking at doing a clinic at the Rose Baker Senior Center. Rachel has taken the lead on pulling that together and communicating with our partners to get those arranged as quickly as possible. But Rachel, what timeline were we looking at this point?
Either the week of April 18th or the week of April 22nd. And that includes 5 locations, GHA locations, Rose Baker and Central Grammar.
Okay, thank you. In regards to our numbers, the board has been receiving the updates, and yes, the BioBot numbers continue to rise. It will be interesting to see what happens with tomorrow's numbers from them, and all hopes are that it will go down, but we'll see. Our PCR numbers, continue to go up and hover around 20 new cases, 15 active, generally speaking, for every 3 days. Not too bad, but I have a feeling there are a lot of it's underreported based on our percent of positivity, which is over 13% at this point, almost 14%. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, and we'll hopefully get more information from the state, and I'll send out another report with the BioBot report as well, as to give a better picture of what's happening there. Folks may have noticed that we have a revised agenda for this meeting. Karen Koretsky, who was brought on as our Director of Prevention for the prevention group, started on Monday and sent a resignation yesterday at 3. Well, we had a conversation at 3 o'clock. She sent it shortly after that conversation, she basically let me know she was resigning. And so we are going to be working with HR again to repost the position and try and get that work done. Rachel's been working with the prevention team to have conversations with them. I was kind of running around a bit today, so I didn't have the opportunity to meet with them, but I have spoken with them individually, or a few of them individually, and they're a good group. They've done a lot of hard work. They've unfortunately have become accustomed to adversity. But and obviously I can't get into any details because it is an HR matter at this point. But we'll move forward like we always do, and hope that we get a great candidate that can work and do good work with the prevention group that we have. And so, but we're grateful for the crew that we have and what they've been able to accomplish in spite of everything that's been going on. I am happy to report that we do have a new health inspector coming on board May 2nd. Brianne Gray, or Bree Gray, is experienced health inspector from the city of Newton, and even uses the same permitting program that we have in place here in the city. So the hope is that she'll not only does she have all of the majority of the certifications and experiences and what the role entails, and knows that it involves rats, bats, and automobiles, but has just a great energy, great attitude. We're really looking forward to working with her. I think she's gained a lot of great experience in her time in Newton, and so we're happy to have her on board. However, I am sad to announce, and we've all told him that he's breaking our heart, that Brian Muehlman, our inspector who's in charge of basically in charge of food inspections and restaurants, is leaving the department. He will be leaving as of, his last day is May 13th. He'll have a little bit of vacation time. This, we are actually happy for him and his family. They are moving down to Texas, and it's a great opportunity for them, and one that they couldn't say no to. And we understand fully, even though we are brokenhearted, and support him, but we are going to be in the market for a new inspector for our restaurant and food inspections. So we'll be sending that out soon. But the hope is that we can turn this around quickly enough, I hope, that if we can have a crossover time with Brian still here, so he can do some onboard training before he leaves. So as folks know, we're continuing to go through the process of closing the dental center. The city will continue to retain the space of the dental center, but the operations of at least the Board of Health, or the health department's operations of the dental center, will be closing. However, I'm happy to report that Polish Dental, which is the company that we communicated with, who does the exact same work we are hoping to have done in the schools, providing dental care services for students directly in the school settings. We met with the school nurse leader, Jeff Parker, who I can't say enough positive things about. He's been an excellent point person for the school in helping make this happen. Also to Ben Lewis and also to Rachel for her support. They hope to start, let's see, mid-May, thereabouts. They'll be starting at Veterans School. That's the intent. At least till the end of the season. Veterans will be a good test site for them, and then continue on again in the new school year. So I'm very grateful for the support the board's provided during this very difficult process. It's been a long-standing program with the departments and the board, but circumstances being what they are, it just made sense to move on. And we're very happy that there was an alternative that still allowed us to provide services. So we're glad for that.
Yeah. Can I, Max, can I just, before you,
Yeah.
there's just a couple of things I wanted to comment on. Now I just, well, one of the things I want to say is that if I can be helpful in any way to the prevention team, please reach out to me. When I've reached out, they said they didn't really think so, but now there's another kind of crisis of confidence or whatever of having someone start and not. And if there's anything I can do or be helpful, please let them know. I'm happy to.
No,
Also, I was very proud. They went to the suicide prevention night at Gloucester High the other night, and I was very proud that it was co-sponsored by the health department and the Board of Health, and it was a wonderful, that was a really great evening. The other thing I wanted to say about vaccine, when you first said a second booster, and I said, oh, is there going to be a clinic? And you said, well, we can't even get people in for first booster. What I realized is it's so easy to get an appointment at CVS. I went online and I could have gotten one the same day. My husband got one, I'm getting it tomorrow. So I could see where there wouldn't be the same need, for clinics, because it's so easily accessible. That maybe that's why there aren't people who are breaking down the doors to come to the clinics the way there were a year ago when, it was so hard to get the vaccine.
No, I agree. And I think that is the reason why we're focusing on our partnership with the Housing Authority and Central Grammar. These are folks who may or may not have the capacity or ability to get outside the building by and large.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we will do it at the Rose Baker Senior Center because we actually have vaccine on hand, and it would be good for us to get it used if at all possible, and to provide the community an opportunity. And we'll see who comes. I mean, I figure 10 people is better than no people, and we'll do the best we can and judge it from there as to whether or not we need to do anything further. Go ahead, Rachel.
I just wanted to quickly report that in the month of March, in collaboration with Beauport Ambulance Services, we visited every school in the school system to vaccinate children. We didn't get a ton of people, but we wanted to make sure that the health department was offering that in the school system directly on site. And so, with the exception of one cancellation in East Gloucester, we visited every single school and vaccinated children and staff, actually. In addition to that, we had a public clinic at Our Lady of Good Voyage several Saturdays ago, and we saw 22 people that day, the vast majority of which were ESL or ELL folks from the Portuguese community. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's something we are really enormously proud of. Each of those 22 really counts. And we had really great volunteers, and that clinic just went very smoothly. And I just wanted to quickly report that and thank Joe for showing up and helping that day as well.
No, thank you for making that happen, because it may not be the first, but it is a significant inroads into a goodly portion of the population in Gloucester that typically doesn't participate in going to CVS or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I mention too about the vaccine piece for North, for my day job, North Shore Community Health, that we are doing direct outreach to our population in Gloucester and our Spanish, directly to our Spanish speaking. And we drove a lot of folks to that site because you offered translation services, which gives them a piece of comfort going in somewhere where they know they're going to have someone that speaks the language they speak. So I encourage you to continue to offer that type of clinic, especially at our places of worship in Gloucester, and servicing that population that that just, we're finding our non-English speaking folks, they're just not as informed or have a lot of different underlying trust issues in getting and seeking the vaccine. So, so great opportunity there as well. So thanks for doing that.
That's it for me.
Good.
Rachel, do you have
Sorry,
something?
one more very quick thing. I just wanted to let everybody know that we have the contract signed for the Good Harbor Creek.
Good.
Engineers, there was quite a bit of back and forth with our legal teams, so it was a little bit of a holdup, and we will be starting as soon as we have 74 hours without rain. So things are moving, and we will, as soon as we have that, things will be, we'll be getting lots and lots of results in the same day. So I just wanted to quickly mention that it's been signed, it's moving forward.
Great, because I was going to ask about that. So many people have started asking now that spring is here. What's happening with the creek? Is it open yet?
Yeah.
And so
and please
great.
continue to forward those questions to me if that helps. I'm always happy to talk about it.
That'll be a lot of people calling you up.
All right. Anything else? Rachel, Max? No? So the last thing on the agenda is concerns of the board. Anyone have something to say that?
Yeah, I mean, just in the interest of time, what are we doing about some celebration for Fred? We talked about doing that in the spring to honor all the years.
Yeah.
And whether we want to wait another month till we can eat outside, or I know we said,
Well,
but I just don't want to let it go by without.
Absolutely. No, that's very good of you to bring it up. Let's try to put something together. Maggie and I are away the 18th to the 25th of this month. And that's going to put us pretty much into May. So why don't we try to do something in May, and open to suggestions. We could do something at Beauport or wherever.
Yeah. I just don't want to let it, it'd be so easy to just kind of let it slip by.
Yeah, right. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So just want to mention that.
Good. Anything else?
Nope.
Just in the interest of time as well, but I wanted to just kind of put it out there in seeing like what is, just because we have new members on the board and a lot of transitions happening, dental center closing, folks moving around in the department, do we have like a strategic plan or a vision of priorities for the department? If it's already existing, great, I'd love to see it. And if not, how can the board support the team to identify what those priorities are, or the strategic plan? So that's kind of my
great suggestion. It's a big topic.
We actually, Joe and I have talked about this already, actually, but one of the things that was recognized is that two pieces of information that are critical to knowing and helping drive the board strategically are the youth risk behavior survey and the community health needs assessment. And so we're kind of waiting a little bit on that. It's not to say we should delay anything. And I think we could probably look at and we did discuss this, we could probably look at previous information from past. I doubt if it's going to change a heck of a lot. And, you know, probably go forward from there. But I absolutely agree. I think it's an important step, especially now that we're at a juncture where there's still a lot of dust in the air, but a lot of it is also settled. And I think it's good for the board to reassess at this point with all the new members on board. What are the priorities? Exactly. I absolutely agree.
If we were interested at all in exploring that on a qualitative level, I am trained in visioning to facilitate visioning sessions. That's what I did in graduate school. And I would be delighted to help with this if that's something that was useful.
It may well be. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it goes beyond the youth. It's beyond just the youth. I
Sure.
mean, it's kind of the health of the rest of the city as well. Youth is a really important piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just one of my, passions, and I kind of reach out to the mayor too, to see if it exists. There's really no health equity. No one's really kind of looking at health equity in a direct way. So it's all underlying in a lot of the programming and work that health department does. But I really encourage us as a board and the department to really kind of shine a light on it. And, what kind of policies can we encourage HR to adopt? And Mayor Verga said he's all in support of the board putting forth any type of, proposal or recommendations to administration to support the city side, but then also when we're developing programs or with our strategic plan, that's kind of the underlying theme moving forward.
Yeah, I agree entirely,
Yeah.
Kelly.
And
That's a good
forgive me,
point.
Kelly,
And
are
it
you,
is one of our
sorry.
values, right, Max? It's years ago, we put together sort of a semi-value statement, and that was paramount among them.
Exactly. But
So-
just to follow up to Kelly, if I could, Kelly, if you have any kind of, I always like to benchmark. So you figure who's done the best practices, what health departments, what health agencies, well, specifically actually local health departments have initiated those kinds of programs or made those kinds of recommendations. And essentially, what can we glean from them as to what, just give us something to work from. If you have information, bring it forward, it'd be great.
Yeah. The state has developed an Office of Health Equity, and there's a lot of other health departments are more regional in other states where they have a division of health equity or diversity, equity, and inclusion office to really kind of address that. So, and I was just watching a video or a webinar that I can share with you that was really like social justice-y. So, you have to put your hat on for that, but that's, it was great, eye-opening and stuff, and gave some tools.
Excellent.
Good. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
A second?
All in
Kelly
favor?
seconds.
Aye,
We're all in favor.
Aye.
aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye,
Thank
aye.
you.
Thank you,
Hey.
everyone.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Good meeting. Thank
Have a
you.
good
Yeah.
evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Yep.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.